The development zone. Being in the development zone or in flow means that you are in a situation where the adrenaline is floating in a supportive way. You have a feeling of control, and yet again you are a bit out on the ice flake. You feel excited because you're trying to achieve something that is not easy yet possible. You're in a learning situation where you practice the new learning, gets better at it, and adds new learning again. You are mentally focused on what you do, and you know that what you do is important. Your goals are out of reach but inside. Here's an example of a cyclist after an important race. I have found out that by focusing 100% on the muscles in my body, I get a better flow and I forget about being scared to fall. In this race, I was able to focus even more than usual, and especially when the race became tougher. That meant a higher speed and increased courage to stay in the pack. It was exciting to feel the power and also a bit scary. Here's an example from an employee working in a restaurant. I have learned a new dish that requires a lot of timing. It was the second time I tried the dish, so it required my full attention today. I felt a lot of pressure to get it right, and there were moments when I thought that I could not do it. All in all, I'm pretty satisfied with my performance today, and I know what to improve tomorrow. Flow is about the interlink between competences and challenges. In the middle between competences and challenges, you find the development zone. That is where joy and positive tension is present. We call it flow. Above the development zone, you have signs of frustration and maybe turning into stress. Below, you have the full control and maybe in time boredom. In case your goal is not in sight and out of reach, and or your speed of learning is way too fast to cope with, you are out of flow and in frustration. Staying out of flow for too long can cause stress. The manager has to help the employee to stay in flow. In case you have full control with no or very little learning, you might feel pleasure and the risk of falling into boredom is high. The manager has to help the employee to get new learning opportunities and this way speed up and get a higher job satisfaction. When you are in the development zone, you learn. Every time you learn, you get new courage to train. You need to train until you are competent in it, and when you are competent in it, you can add new learning. This way you are constantly improving yourself. One of the strongest drivers for continuous learning is recognition and appreciation. It helps the employee believe even more, be more courageous, and search for larger challenges. Recognition and appreciation can come from the manager or the employee him or herself. When the employee is in the development zone, he or she is challenged in the right degree. This means that the employee does not have challenges that are too small, which means that he or she is constantly in full control, nor too large with the risk of the employee to be frustrated. If the employee is in full control, there is a risk that the employee will end up in a state of boredom, and if the employee is frustrated over a longer period of time, it can end up in stress. In the development zone, the challenges are adequate. When an employee is in the development zone, he or she is in the process of learning and training on the new learnings. The dots in the development zone symbolizes new challenges that are adequate in relation to where the employee is right now in his or her own development. It may be a challenge related to the task or a personal challenge. The lines between the dots symbolize development, which occurs when the challenge has been trained. Gradually, the employee becomes more skillful, ending up in having new competences. When one particular learning has turned into a competence, there is basis for getting a new challenge to train on. It is not the same thing every employee needs to be in the development zone. For one person, one type of challenge places them on the border of frustration, whereas the same challenge places another person into a state of boredom. It is important that the manager does not set the same bar for both of them, but has respect for the different ways of learning, what the person's preference is and what it is not, how far they have reached in their own development. Feedback must therefore be adjusted accordingly in order to ensure that the employee is within the development zone. Each time the employee gets feedback from the manager, he or she gets access to new learning and gets the opportunity to train on the new learning. The more the employee is in the development zone, the more he or she learns and the stronger the foundation becomes. It requires focus and repetition to raise one's competence from being unconsciously incompetent to being consciously competent. Therefore, it is important that the manager will continue to observe the employee in action and continuously gives feedback. If the employee is not in the development zone and does not acquire or provides him or herself with new challenges, the employee is most likely to be in full control. There is actually nothing wrong with that, and some employees are happy to be there, even for the duration of years to come. Where it goes wrong is when the employee begins to get bored and thereby slows down. What fills the time is instead an inner dialogue about things that are not important for the workflow. For instance, maybe I should change my job. It is unbelievable how incompetent my manager is. Mary is so annoying when she does not make fresh coffee when she has taken the last. How can I best celebrate my son's birthday? All these issues do not increase performance. There is a larger possibility for the employees to feel competent, valuable and satisfied if they are in flow and feel the pleasure of mastering something new. What often stands in the way are thoughts like, I do not want to make a mistake or fail. I can't see that there are possibilities for learning in my present job. It is the manager's responsibility to create an environment where mistakes are perceived as a potential for learning, and it is also the manager who can help the employee to find new learning opportunities in the present job or help the employee to find challenges elsewhere in the company. When an employee is stuck in a problem. When an employee is out of flow, it can also be that he or she is challenged by a problem that stands in the way for thinking development. It can be a problem that has been there for so long that the employee can no longer separate the problem from the person. The employee can think of the problem as something that cannot be solved and will forever be a challenge. The manager can help the employee to see the problem from different perspectives, and that can be quite tough for the employee and will in time also be liberating. It is important in these situations to stay away from lecturing. Think about if you have had a problem for a very long time without solving it and someone else points at the obvious solution. The employee can lose some self-confidence and think, I'm stupid and now my manager has just proved how stupid I am. The manager can, on the other hand, increase own self-confidence by thinking, wow, I'm smart, how lucky my employees are to have me. The employee has to find his or her own solution, and the manager can act as coach to help find different perspectives. This way the manager avoids forcing perspectives on the employee that would not work for him or her.